Love is Blind, Season 6. Love is Blind, Season 6. Let's watch.
The dating scene is extremely shallow.
I've been ready to get married for a long time. Hello?
Hey there.
This notion that the dating scene is shallow, I wonder about that sometimes. Because, of course, are there shallow people or they're not really looking for a deep relationship? Sure, that happens. And that has probably happened in every generation. But I think that it's possible that a lot of people are concluding that the dating scene is shallow because it's hard to find somebody. And it's always been hard to find someone. I'm old enough to remember the times before the internet, if you can believe such a thing. And no one was like celebrating about how easy it was to find true love or to date. It's always been hard. And I wonder if when people are at home alone and frustrated with dating, if they might resort to certain cultural tropes or easy answers to the problem. And I think a common conclusion is like, well, everyone's shallow, or people have short attention spans these days, or everyone's just looking for a hookup, because everyone seems to be saying that about everybody else. But very few people are actually like that. Certainly there are people like that, right? But I think it's just really hard to find the right person. Now, with the availability of all the apps where you can kind of shop around for millions of people, does that make it easier to jump ship very early, like on date 2 when things are just going a little wonky, like, well, you know, there's plenty more fish in the sea. Yeah, I think that might raise the discardability of a potential partner. But on the plus side, you have more choices to choose from. Now, we know from psychology and research and data that when we have more choices, sometimes it actually makes things where, I'll talk very briefly about this, that like the common example that's given in the research is that when you go to the department store and you're trying on jeans, okay, in the past, there might have only been 2 different kinds of jeans that you would try on. And you would go into the changing room, you try on those two pairs of jeans, and you would pick one. You'd be like, well, you know, this one's better, I'll pick that one. My butt looks better in that one. And then fast forward, and now you have like 35 different kinds of jeans you can choose from. When you go into the changing room, you can't possibly bring all 35 because that store might not have all 35. You don't have time to actually try on all 35. It might give you kind of a skin condition with chafe or something. So you choose 10, which is a lot more than 2. Common wisdom would be that you would actually be happier with 10 choices, 10 options, because you would be able to choose a more optimal pair of jeans that makes your butt look optimal. And you would think that people would be happier with that, but research shows that on average people are not happier, because the speculation is that with more choices means that you aren't really quite sure if you chose the right one. And because you could never try all the jeans, you're never quite sure if you exhausted all of your available options to see if you could find the perfect pair of jeans. And so in the past, you would have 2 available dates that happen to just cross your path in real life, right? Whereas today you have too many, or you have an unlimited supply, then it can raise unhappiness and dissatisfaction. Anyway, he just said that today everything's so shallow. And I just wonder if, one, people resort to that excuse as a way of exonerating themselves or explaining frustration. You know, it's sort of like kids today. It has that kind of vibe to me of like, oh, kids today, they're so shallow. They lack attention spans. They are not really deep individuals. They're not thoughtful. People have been saying that since the Roman times, ancient Roman times. And I think it actually might perpetuate the problem, because when you say things like that, I think it makes people a lot more scared to interface with people online or dating in general.
I really truly believe that love is blind.
We've done the emotional. Now we have to connect on a physical level.
I feel like they're spoiling it They're like, I'm going to skip forward. Yeah. So I keep skipping forward and seeing that they are spoiling the show. I'm not watching the scenes, but I'm just seeing little frames, and it looks like this is a teaser for the rest. They're basically even showing us, I think, signs of who actually gets together. That ruins it. Why would you do that? And I don't like, reality TV does this a lot.
Oh, she's a dancer, she's a cheerleader. I want something deeper.
She looks like a Hapa sister. Yeah, half Asian, right? What town are they in? Do we know? I'm sure someone knows. I don't know.
How some of the guys are going to receive the fact that I have a child. I'm sorry. I just love her so much.
Do you think that that's something that you're...
Yeah, this is a problem. There's so much stigma. I mean, it's like it's 2024, people, and we still have stigma around these things. Now, you're not going to hear people say this directly, but we know where this comes from. It comes from the notion that women are basically supposed to be virgins when they get married. They are also supposed to have only been in love with with nobody else before they meet their man, in heterosexual circles anyway. And a man is not a real man if he is with someone who has obvious signs of having a previous relationship, particularly if she has a child, because, that meant that she had sex before you, and so you're like this cuck or this secondary, or, there's the sayings that people have. And people don't say that directly, typically. I mean, certainly some people do, but those ideas have been infused into our belief systems. We operate from that. What's the difference? Now, if you're dating someone that has a kid, that is a serious situation, right? You're not just dating that person. You are potentially, especially if you're heading to a more serious relationship, even if it's not marriage, if you're in a committed, ongoing relationship with that individual, there are major questions that have to be discussed as to your involvement with that child. And of course, for the mother, there's worries of protecting your children.
Wait to tell someone, or you think you're going to come out of the gate, and be like, by the way, I have a kid?
I want to give people the chance to get to know me individually first.
Okay, so this raises a question. Do you tell people right up front, or do you wait? Now, in a perfect world, she wouldn't have to wait. I think what she's calculating is, if I tell people, maybe even from her own experience, if I tell people up front, they won't give me a chance. It wouldn't be irrational to think, I need to protect them from themselves. I can't reveal this because it's in their interest that they actually get to know me first, and then I tell them. Now, when do you tell the person, right? Now, this is this weird kind of format of dating, but we could think about in our own lives, on what date or at what point. If she waits a long time and someone has established feelings and has eliminated other potential partners because they're zeroing in on her, and then she tells them, and it's at the very least a betrayal of trust, because they're thinking, well, what else haven't you told me, and why didn't you tell me? We've talked about a lot of really intimate things, and I wonder if they're including this little bit in the edit because that does come up. If they're including something in the very first episode, you just have to wonder if it comes into play. It's like Chekhov's gun, whatever. Is that the saying? If a gun shows up in Act 1, it definitely has to be fired in Act 3 or something?
It doesn't define me. I feel like I'll just know when the time is right to tell somebody. She can't wait. She's already been Googling, her dress. I'm like, let me just go and meet.
Okay, let's kind of evaluate what she just said there. She said, I'll know when it's right. Okay, that's not the best metric to follow. I wouldn't recommend that she follow that metric because, is that what she said?
Because even though I'm a mother and it's the most important thing to me, it doesn't define me. I feel like I'll just know when the time is right to tell somebody.
Right, I think I'll just know. Even that way of saying it, I think I'll just know. That has a lot of vulnerability to putting it off, right? Because if you're just waiting for the right moment, it'll probably never arrive, because it's always going to be whether that's early, like on date 2 or at date 10, it's always going to feel like something you would rather not do. I would have been more confident if she would have said something like, if I were in her shoes, this is what I would say. I would say, well, I would just be upfront from the beginning because, you know, I don't want to be with someone who has that kind of ridiculous stigma or susceptibility to stigma. It's kind of a litmus test of, are you gullible to propaganda in culture, or do you have a critical mind of social constructions, you know?
She can't wait. Like, she's already been Googling, like, her dress. I'm like, let me just go and meet somebody first. Like, calm down.
Wait, so was she talking about the kid? I think she was talking about the kid, right?
You had a warning label, what would it say?
Does not do laundry.
Does not do laundry. Now they're editing it, so who knows what was going on there, but does not do, that would be a red flag for me. I would recommend people have that as a red flag. So for me, I love doing chores around the house. I enjoy. I like cleaning bathrooms and toilets. I love doing yard work and organizing, and I like doing laundry. There's one thing that is just, I've realized, I don't know what it is about unloading the dishwasher. There's something about it that I'll load the dishwasher, I'll rinse stuff off, and I do, but there's something, the one thing that I just told Stacy, I'm sorry, there's something about unloading the dishwasher that it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I don't know what it is. So I'll do a chore for you if you can just do that. I don't know. Do you have something like that where you're just like, no, I don't know why. We'll make a deal, but I can't. There's something about this chore that, and why is that? I think I had a lot of bad experiences when I was young with just dishes in general, living with roommates. We were lazy in our early 20s in college, and I'd be living with like 6 guys, and no one would clean their dishes. And we'd be eating in our hands, because there wouldn't be any plates left, and we wouldn't have a fork, so you'd use like one chopstick or something. Maybe that's probably where it comes from.
Butterflies.
Stop!
This is a weird answer, but we're gonna go with a good love movie.
Yeah, so his thing is that he doesn't like being judged for his muscles and his mullet, and he wants to be seen for who he really is. I don't know if he's just playing it up in this moment, but either way, yeah, why would people just, we have these stereotypes and it's ridiculous. So he wants to be seen for who he really is, which is good. And I wonder if this is also one of those things where, like some of the people that I know who are super into death metal and really aggressive, angry rock music are some of the most nicest, and they'll dress the part kind of thing, meaning that when people see them, they'd be terrified. But they're the nicest, most tender people on the planet. And so sometimes you wonder, is it that they funnel all their anger into this culture and art and maybe even creativity if they're involved in it themselves, and they expel all that energy so that they're super chill otherwise? For him, maybe he has funneled all of his masculinity, his signaling that he's a real man, into his muscles and his mullet, and now he's free to just be whoever he is, or to have balance in other parts of his life. I don't know.
Jimmy with the juice. You've got the juice. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people just have that swag, that like flavor about them.
I'm like bright red over here.
Okay, so Jimmy and Jessica, the way it does look is that they just met on day 1 and are kind of flirting around the edges of committing already to this person. Or they do this with everybody as a strategy to become more noticeable. I would imagine that would be a strategy that would help as long as you didn't go too far with it, right? And it would feel sleazy to do so. But to signal to the other people like, hey, I'm game for this game and let's play the game. So for them, they seem to be, but they also seem to be kind of gelling. And so what does that say? And she said earlier, I am not intimidated by this process. I think if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if I find someone in 4 weeks and we get married, then I think that makes total sense to me, which is fine. But I'm wondering if the two of them have issues with impulse control or lack of differentiation, lack of self-reflection or something. I don't know. It's not a slam dunk indication of that, but I don't know. You know, when you feel it, you feel it. But maybe they feel it a lot.
I have questions written down and they're numbered 1 through 15.
Okay,
So if you want, you can pick a number.
give me 10.
Okay, so he's really organized, and my impression is that they all are potentially encouraged, but I think they naturally gravitate towards, particularly in the beginning, having a set number of questions or like a little bit of a routine, because, you know, they're meeting 15 people in very quick succession, so they're trying to just remember who that person was, and so I think that they have that notebook thing, right? So there's nothing wrong with having a number of questions. The way it comes across is sort of clinical. I'm taking notes. He's a financial advisor, so maybe it's in his field to have this process. But yeah, you know, and also maybe for him, he is shy to ask more personal questions. And if it seems like it's this universal set of questions and then they get to choose the number, it makes it less scary for him. I don't know.
Something you think you excel at in relationships.
My loyalty and devotion to my partner.
And then the question, what is something that you think you excel at in a it's like he talks the way he talks, and Jessica seems to be fine with it. And interesting, I'm taking notes here on that. So that she says she excels with loyalty and devotion. That usually points to the possibility of a history in which someone was not loyal to her, but she was loyal to them. And she's looking for someone that is not disloyal. So it's just a guess.
You know, I was just going to ask the questions. I wasn't really anticipating getting the same one back.
Oh my God.
Yep, just dude talking to the wall. This experiment I did.
Tell me that was edited. Okay. So on one hand, he says, regardless of how it's edited, she's like, what about you? Which is good response and expected response. And then he says, I wasn't expecting anyone to ask me that question. Okay, I guess you didn't predict that. Whatever. You can answer the question. It's at least courteous because it's a back and forth, right? But then in the edit, he just stands up and, what is happening?
You know, I was just going to ask the questions. I wasn't really anticipating getting the same one back.
Oh my God.
Yep, just dude talking to the wall.
Yep, just dude talking to the wall. I'm guessing there's a major chunk that they edited out. Now, maybe that chunk basically is in line with the edit, but I don't know. There's something screwy about that.
This experiment, I didn't really know what to expect, but I knew it was going to be incredibly hard. You know, having conversations about our emotions is probably not somewhere where I would excel.
Hello. What's your name?
Okay, so he's admitting he has a hard time talking about emotions. And I wonder if we could just see the whole thing play out. I wonder how that would look. So let's see how this goes.
Matthew?
Matthew, nice to meet you. My name is Sarah Ann. How's everything going today?
But if we go off the edit, so I shouldn't just discount what we just saw. Yeah, it was bizarre. He has 15 questions, and if they're in line with that question he asked, you know, they're personal questions and, you know, normal questions you would ask, I suppose, if you were sort of blending dating with a job interview. And then he asked the question, she answers it in a sincere way. She reciprocates by asking him. He says, and then he's like, yeah, just a dude talking to the wall, and walks out. Yeah, I hope that was edited wonky, because wonkily, he just walked out. So I guess the story we're being told was that he's like awkward and he had a moment there where he was asked that question and he just like, bail, abort, run. So is that what we think? I mean, I suppose it's possible.
How's everything going today?
I don't know. We'll keep that close to the vest.
Do you have anything you'd like to ask me?
I do have a list.
I wonder if she is half Asian as well. It's always good to see half Asian individuals represented in our culture and on this show. She asks, how are you doing? And he says, yeah, I'm going to keep that close to the vest. Okay. If that is accurate, then let's go down that road. But first, let's speculate that that was edited wonkily and that was a different question he was responding to. If I was to put my money down, I would say that if we saw the full scene, it would make a little bit more sense. It probably is still in this direction, but I have a hard time believing that he doesn't know how to answer, how are you doing today? But if we go with the edit, there is a possibility that when he received the question, he heard it as a question of, how have you been doing on all the dates? Give me a summary of how things have been going. And he quickly calculates that that's too personal or too fraught or something. And so he responds with, I'm going to keep that close to the vest. So I'm going to take a guess and say that people are going to speculate about some sort of neurodiversity. We can't tell just from that. People do that online all the time. And there's an additional problem with online activity and TikTok where neurodiversity, autism spectrum, ADHD, other kinds of differences will be reduced to one or two behaviors or tendencies or traits. You know, people post these videos of like, I just want to stay home and cuddle up with my cat and watch TV. That's so autistic of me or something. And I'm like, what? I mean, maybe the person is on the spectrum, but that's not a slam dunk indicator. Now, if the person provided a whole backstory, at least clinically, I would say that that's in line with the literature and the construct. And it's also a pet peeve of mine that whenever anything like this is being presented to us, everyone is like autism spectrum or ADHD or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe, but when I diagnose people with autism spectrum or ADHD, it takes me a long time. I don't just do a symptom checklist or observe a couple behaviors. There's testing, there's interviews, there's a lot of education. I have to educate the client a lot on even how to interpret the questions that I'm asking because the questions themselves are complicated. So it takes a long time. And we can't just watch someone on TV that has some quirky behavior and say that this person has this. Now, maybe he'll say something or tell us what's like, maybe he even identifies as neurodiverse. I don't know, but let's watch.
What is one of your current short-term goals?
I do want to meet the love of my life. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually meet someone without them judging me and me judging them. And so now.
So we'll say that question is even more like a job interview. Short-term goals. And then she asks in a sincere way, instead of saying, short-term, what do you mean? Am I at a job interview? And she's like, I'm here to find love. I mean, she didn't even say it like that. That's how I would say it. I would say, well, I'm here to find someone that I would fall in love with and get married. Why are you here? And then as she's giving her answer, which doesn't look long-winded, he is seeming, in terms of the edit, he's being portrayed as he's bored.
Naturally, like I'm trying to be kind and wholehearted as I possibly can with someone, I think just from like knowing that you're going to be judged.
Well, now they're editing it to make it look like she is an overtalker, but it's not. One, they're there to talk, so there's going to be a lot of talking. Two, it's kind of a complicated question. Now, maybe she is an overtalker.
I think just from like knowing that you're going to be judged, I definitely will say that I can relate to those reservations 100%. You're gonna be judged is always a little.
So I'm trying to figure out what the editors are doing. There's something wrong with the edit. It's deceptive in some way because it can't be the way that it looks, because she, like I don't even think she was 5, I think she was just 3 sentences into her normal response to a complicated question. Something has to be a lie there. Either they edited it to make it look like time was passing for him and it wasn't, or she indeed did yammer for a long time, but they're not really portraying that for us well enough. So I just, what do you think?
Bit, scary. However, I think also being in everyday life, people judge too. Are you there?
Either way, it does look like he just walked out without saying anything. And yeah, wow. Yikes. I'm going to take a guess and say, what's his name? Matthew. I'm going to take a guess and say that Matthew doesn't make it to the next phase.
He's gone.
And then she says, thank fucking God. Yeah, the edit must have left a lot out, which is normal, but it feels manipulative because it's too condensed. The fact that she's saying, thank fucking God, that points to the strong likelihood that there was a long conversation in which she started to question whether or not this date was something she wanted to continue with. I wish we could see that footage, I mean, with Netflix and this show, I get the impression that they're really trying to condense this thing down, which has its pros, right? Because then you don't have to sit through a lot of boring stuff. But on the downside, it's like they leave stuff on the cutting room floor that I think would be real. Wouldn't it have been interesting to see at least just 2 more minutes? It sounds like it was an interesting watch, but as it is, but I don't know, maybe they condensed it down and told the story in a more economic way. I don't know. All right, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time when I continue watching, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.